Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Josh Barley, and on behalf of the Black Hills Leadership Development Board of Directors, I would like to welcome you to our November meeting. During these challenging times, it's been especially tough on our leaders, and I know exactly how much this group means to you if you're willing to subject yourselves to yet one more Zoom call. So thank you for being here and making leadership a priority. A big part of this group has always been the networking that we get to do at our tables during the luncheons. So I encourage you guys to use the chat function to visit with each other. And also, if you have a question during the presentation, please go ahead and put it in the group chat there, and we'll get that answered for you. This talk is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. You can find that by searching Black Hills Leadership. This month's sponsor is the Dakota Dreamers Foundation, and speaking on their behalf is a personal mentor of mine and all-around great lady, Karen Pearson.
Okay, thank you, Josh, for facilitating that. I'm really excited to be able to be here today and talk to all of you about the foundation and to see if maybe we can do something supportive for what you're thinking about on some ideas. Some of you may know about the Dakota Dreams book, which is this one right here. I hope you can all see it on that. And that was sort of the foundation beginning. I spent most of my career in public health, and then I came back in Alaska, and I came back to South Dakota during the terrible drought of the early 2000s. And what I saw was a lot of women really digging deep and saying, how do I bring some more money, some more financial security into our family, especially in small towns and on farms? And then I saw other people just not knowing where to go. And with that in mind, a couple years later, I wrote this book, which features 17 amazing women who had ideas about how they might start a business, how they might do something really fulfilling in their life. Because I think most of us know, and you probably come to these meetings with the idea in mind that you don't necessarily know what's possible until you see somebody else doing it. And then you say, I can do that. Not that specific thing, but whatever it is that is your dream, your goal. And with that in mind, knowing that women tend not to put their needs first, we were pretty certain that no one who was struggling financially or had other issues or just generically would necessarily put the money up to buy a book to inspire themselves. And so thanks to the generosity of a lot of individuals and some organizations, we raised enough money to print 5,000 of the books, and we put them in libraries, domestic violence shelters, universities, just any number of places that people might be able to access them and be inspired. Since we were able to print so many, we continue now to put these books out in places that they might inspire people. I just today sent off enough books for the new group of fellows for the Billy Sutton Leadership Program. This past fall, about a year ago now, we donated 400 books for the South Dakota CEO conference in Deadwood and got a lot of feedback on that. So thinking that we were going to give all the books away, that was going to kind of be the end of it. But a lot of people wanted to buy them. And so we actually generated enough income that we now are in a position with the foundation to be thinking about things that we can do. And we had an intention this fall of starting a program to help women trying to enter the workforce. But as you know, with COVID, lots of things changed. So we're going to be working on that next fall. But one of the things I'd like to offer all of you, because it was such an issue for me trying to figure out how we could take in money, both grants and sales, is to say that we have a 501c3. That's what Dakota Dreamers is now. And I couldn't find anyone who would work with me to be that fiscal home. So if you have a project focused on women and families, come and talk to us. I have information where you can get in contact with me. I hope everyone can see that. That's my email address. And I would be happy to talk to you about how we might be able to be a fiscal home for a project you might want to do. And if you have any organization or place that you think placing books had the potential to inspire women to achieve their dreams, to make a difference in their community, just let me know that as well, and we will try to get books to you. I want to acknowledge Cheryl Chapman, who is one of the founding board members on the foundation. We have a group of 7 amazing women here in Western South Dakota. So thank you for allowing me to talk to you, and thanks, Josh, for letting us sponsor the meeting today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen. Okay, you guys are in for a treat. We've got Cheryl Chapman. She's going to talk to us today about mentoring leaders. She's the Vice President and Rapid City Manager for Banner Associates, Inc., an infrastructure and environmental engineering firm in South Dakota. Cheryl was the Pennington County Commissioner and the co-chair of the Chartering Committee for the Missouri River Recovery Implementing Committee. She serves as the chair of the Military Affairs Committee, president of Calvary Lutheran Church, and treasurer of the Badlands National Park Conservancy. She's married to Malcolm Chapman, who's been a good friend of this group. And talk about a power couple. They have 3 children together. That's the bio that Cheryl wanted me to share, but I also wanted to tell you about her. No matter how busy Cheryl is in her professional life, she's never too busy to show up for a friend in need or for her community. Talk about a role model. Now, here to talk about mentoring leaders is Cheryl Chapman.
Thank you, Josh, so much. And I look forward to visiting with all of you today as we informally talk about mentoring leaders. And oftentimes, if I use this term, people wonder if it's the right term. Don't you mean to have other leaders mentor me? But in fact, this is the perfect organization to visit with about mentoring other leaders in our community, because you undoubtedly have the courage and confidence to be that leader to bring our community forward. One of the things I will talk about first thing is perhaps you've seen one of the books that I put forward. When Josh asked, what book would you like to share? I thought, well, I'll share the one that I'm reading right now, The Hidden Life of Trees. It's a book that I heard about on a program with the author on public radio. And it was just a fascinating subject for me. I have, as some of you know, a science and engineering background. And here was an individual working in forest in Germany, talking about all the things that he learned in his work, really observing, thinking about the things he saw in such a way that new insights came forward out of his work. And he has a quote that I share with you on the screen that he really considers it a gift to write about trees, because I learn something new every day as I research, think, observe, and draw conclusions from what I have discovered. And I think no matter where we are, whether we're working, retired, or working in other fields altogether, that this is a really great mantra, if you will, to think about as you approach each and every day. So you might ask, why mentor leaders? And what we want to talk about today is perhaps micro leadership, in the sense of not a leader running an organization or a community or a school district, but everyday kinds of leadership, because no matter where we are day to day, whether it's the workplace or social gatherings or at home. And as you can see, some of these photos are old because no social distancing, of course, but we need leadership in all of these areas. There's situations that come up that sometimes just pass by without someone stepping up to really address an issue that might come forward. There's a commercial that I've seen some time ago on TV, and I don't even remember what they were selling, but the theme of it was always, well, that's not right. And perhaps the grossest one of those was carpet in a shower or something like that. And somebody saying, that's not right. And it is everyday leaders that have the insight, the wisdom to step forward and help guide and direct these discussions wherever they may be. They might be in homes, parenting, helping a child take a bold new step in something they want to try. It might be with a social group and hearing some things that you're not sure about. And it's important to demonstrate your leadership in speaking out about what is an important consideration, what might be the right thing to think about, and of course, in the workplace. And I find in talking with a number of people that it is especially challenging right now. Sometimes nerves are tight because of the word that you might get that a coworker was tested positive, and trying to understand and lead others in our organization through difficult times. And so it's important for others to see you as leaders to help put in that right word, to help put us on the right path as we move ahead in situations that can happen anywhere at any time. And as we think about what is the best way to really mentor those around us, to have them understand that we need to look to them as leaders as well, we think about making sure that we are always present in these conversations. Um, as you talk about ideas, whether informally or formally, how important it is to take an active, not a passive role in a particular situation. We want to be able to make contributions to those ideas, to those conversations. And in doing so, perhaps rather in a very simple way, you are showing others around you who may not be in leadership positions where they are right now, your leadership in helping that group talk through a situation, address a problem, and decide on what action you might want to take. And I coined the term everyday leadership traits. These are kind of what I would call on the spot advice and guidance that you share with others because of your experience and your confidence in understanding how people may react to different situations and help them get through difficult times. As we think about it, it kind of comes down to some simple tasks. We want to find ways to solve a problem. And, uh, thinking back, even though it might not be obvious that the hidden life of trees has a lot of leadership hints for us, its author talking about learning, researching, thinking, observing, and drawing conclusions every day is a great way for us to have an arsenal, if we will, of ideas on how to solve a problem. And I do a lot of reading, mostly for engineering, I will say. I try to find books like Hidden Lives of Trees to kind of expand that um, uh, area of reading. Whereas Malcolm, as I'm sure you've heard him talk about, will read everything under the sun. And I really do think it is having that variety of learning, of experiences that helps us bring to bear kind of the best practices of all those things we see on ways on how to solve problems. And sharing that with others as you might be in a situation, again, it might be at work or home or even in a social setting. It really helps the group understand the challenges and what they can do collectively to move ahead. And then also important everyday leadership traits are about guiding and inspiring others to be the best that we can be as a group. It's perhaps easy in these times to, not be the most positive of ourselves. But as leaders, we really can help help others understand that these challenges are not unique to us, and that by working together, taking inspiration from each other and from other situations, that we can move through any challenges that we see in front of us. One other book, though, that I'll bring to your attention is a book called Mastering Leadership. This is a book that we have used in leadership classes at the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. And if I may, I don't know if you've had Dan Dolan as a speaker, but Dan has done a lot of work with this particular book and does a very interesting lecture on cultural leadership that might be of interest as well. And I will hasten to say that this mastering leadership is more for those leaders who are heading up organizations. Um, it's not the everyday leadership that we've been talking about, but it's an important resource that I wanted to share with you. And as the author says, leadership makes a difference in the results we create and the quality of life we live. And so, just a reinforcement that our quality of life, to a large extent, rests with us on how we respond to situations and how we, with others, work our way through that. And so I would highly recommend this particular book to you. Kind of the essence of that book, to take another moment, is the idea of 4 promises of leadership. I love the word promises in this context. And what the authors talk about are these steps in making sure we are effectively leading organizations. And that very first one, direction and meaning, really has a lot of applicability to the everyday leadership ideas that we've been discussing, and talking about the importance as a leader, and maybe a leader at home or with social settings or at work with relatively small audiences, the importance of being a leader and demonstrating how that is done by helping others to get on the good path forward for that particular group. So I think you may find a lot of interest with that particular text as well. What I would like to do now in moving forward is to just share with you some examples where I've had the opportunity for mentors myself. And and sharing those principles with others in my life. And we'll focus on encouragement, what role that has in working with others, collaboration, of course, and innovation in approaching problems. For encourage, you'll see the words 3 wise women. And I will share with you very early in my career, as I left the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, my first job was at the South Dakota cement plant. And they had never had a plant engineer before. And to boot, now they had a woman engineer within almost an all-male staff there. But it was a great experience, and those coworkers could not have been more welcoming. There had been a call going out into the community of major businesses to see if there were young women in organizations who would be willing to come together for a luncheon to talk about getting involved in community leadership. And the 3 wise women who hosted that lunch were Helen Duhamel, Kay Stewart-Wald, and Zella Barber. All of these women really gained leadership within their business organization at the tail end of World War II, where many women were called upon to be leaders in their community, as so many men went to fight in World War II. And through the end of the war into many years later, they were still leading their organizations in extraordinary ways. At the time, I thought, oh my goodness, they're very old. But I think they were younger than I am today. And they talked about the importance of women stepping forward, and especially young women, to be part of the community and to lead organizations in a way that would benefit the community overall. So as a result of that luncheon, I had the opportunity to join the United Way board. And at that time, I want to say we raised less than $100,000 a year in this community. The staff was only a part-time person with a few organizations. And so I had the chance to join in with many other leaders in the community and work together on ways in which we could grow the United Way program. And it was this involvement that began to give me the courage, if you will, to speak out in our community. And within a few years of that, I ran for office for the first time as a county commissioner here in Pennington County. And so just that simple word of encouragement, we need you, you can do this, to get us off the diving board, so to speak, and plunge in to do a lot of great work in our community can be a great way of mentoring leaders. Another example that Karen and I had a chance to work on together was a collaboration to create an organization called the South Dakota Advocacy Network for Women. A number of years ago, there had been an awakening, and this goes back several years, that domestic abuse was a major problem in society, and that there had finally been some legislation to help fund shelters through a marriage license tax that would come back to those shelters. Through an organization called the American Association of University Women, we started to talk about this particular challenge and found out that there was a move underway to repeal the legislation and do away with the funding for the shelters altogether. In gathering, there was a lot of discussion, and people were talking about creating an organization to just address domestic shelters. We had a lot of ideas, and then a woman from Spearfish, Billy Dunn, spoke up and said, what if we create an advocacy network for all women's organizations and issues? And I'll always remember the silence in the room, because it was absolutely the right issue to bring forward. And yet lots of barriers. How do you get 20 organizations to work together? How do you collaborate? What is your common bond, if you will? And yet, by talking and working through and studying and reading what other things were happening in the country, we developed a platform that said, you don't have to agree on everything. We'll only speak up on the things that we all do agree on. And we only ask that you do not disagree publicly on any particular topic that you may not want to support. And it worked. And there were a number of issues, the number one being permanent funding for domestic abuse shelters in South Dakota. The next one I want to talk about is innovation. And you'll see I have the topic tribal engineers in training. And I will talk a little bit about what has occurred as a result of innovation in mentoring others. The photo that you see on the screen is the board of the Great Plains Tribal Water Alliance. I had been working with the group pro bono during some of their early stages of getting underway. Working on water issues was now and has been a particular interest of mine professionally. And this group had been wanting to form and has done some great work in this particular area of water. And so they said, well, let's start thinking about getting some grants. And so one of the areas that they worked on was tribal climate resiliency. And the federal agency, NOAA, had developed a number of approaches and were sharing it with the tribes. And yet, at the same time, we recognized that we were one of many different organizations trying to compete for these funds. On a call one day, however, we were talking and suggested the idea, what if we involve the leaders of tomorrow? What if we reach out to tribal members who are engineering students, particularly those at the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, and involve them in this project so that they can learn to work together and with tribal leadership for the needs of each tribe in South Dakota and in the Great Plains, and B, understand what this climate resiliency work is all about so that they can continue to build their expertise in this particular area. And so we applied for the grant, we put that concept in there, and were funded. And as we began to work together, I was with a private company. We had South Dakota School of Mines and Technology involved, and then many tribes joined in on this. And we said, how can we build on something that we've started here? Can we work together to identify projects that would largely be the role of tribes that student engineers, particularly those who are tribal members, could work on with the guidance and mentorship of private companies. And the idea really caught fire. Many of the tribes were very excited because so many times they did not have the technical expertise to help them. And yet the challenges with infrastructure on many reservations were great. The things you and I take for granted every day, living in Rapid City or surrounding communities, are things that many tribal members have to work very hard on to have happen, to make sure the trash is picked up, for example, to be assured that they have clean drinking water, and so forth. And so the idea caught on. And as we talked about it more and more, the tribes, with the help of USDA Rural Development, said, why don't we try and memorialize these partnerships? And so we created memorandum of agreements between the private sector, the School of Mines, and in this particular case, the Oglala Sioux tribe. And in the photo there, you'll see Dana Otto representing Louis Berger, Heather Wilson, who was president of the School of Mines, Scott Weston, who was president of Oglala Sioux tribe at that time, and then the co-directors of Oglala Sioux Housing. A simple memorandum was signed then by all the parties to work together, identify projects, recruit interns, and work on mentoring those young engineers in helping the tribes improve their infrastructure. These individuals that you see on the screen were some of our very first interns in this program. They have gone on, although Mark will be graduating this year, all have graduated from the university, and Renique Beck has her master's degree altogether as well. And so continue to work in these areas to help tribes either directly or indirectly in moving forward. And needless to say, as I've personally worked with these individuals, I could not be more proud of their achievements as they have really established themselves as young engineers and scientists and are making a tremendous contribution, not to mention what an amazing role model they each are for younger people in their families and their communities throughout South Dakota. One of the other ideas that came out of all of this and why this program is so critical is really understanding and putting a priority on the importance of infrastructure in communities. You may have heard about, Maslow's hierarchy for basic human needs. And if you've had a psychology class, you've probably heard about it. But at the very base of this pyramid, if you will, is the physiological needs. In other words, if a person does not have food, clothing, and shelter, they will have difficulty in feeling safe and belonging and building their own esteem to self-actualization. And in a similar way, we can think of how to build strong communities by understanding that at the base of this growth of a community is good infrastructure. If you do not have good transportation, water, and energy, it's very difficult to move up that pyramid to improve governance, education, socioeconomics to build the strong community. And all of these ideas came out of that very simple way of looking at how to build capacity among tribes to help them in their work moving forward. So as we close the formal part of the presentation and look forward to getting your questions, to think about being that everyday leader, to be actively engaged, to mentor new leaders in all that you do, whether it's at home, work, or in a social setting, things that you do to encourage, collaborate, and innovate with those around you and lead the group forward to ways to tackle challenges that are ahead of us will pay dividends for many years to come. So with that, I would be very happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. I've appreciated your calm, strong leadership style for a long time. And you've touched so many different groups in our community, but the work that you've done with the Military Affairs Committee, we have such a strong relationship with our base in this community. Thanks in part to you. So thanks again for that. We do have a couple of questions. Let me see here. First question is, what advice do you have for women who are interested in working in male-dominated industries?
Very good question. I mentioned I started work at the cement plant here in Rapid City, and I was able to go to an international cement conference, if you can imagine, that's held annually. 1,000 people were in attendance and there were 3 women there. So very, very male dominated. It would not be right to say that there is not discrimination in the workplace, but one of the best antidotes to that, if you will, is the ability to do a very good job. And doing that kind of work, digging in, learning more, contributing more to your organization, and frankly, in being that everyday leader in work situations is a great way to move forward with that. And then I would also say, to the extent that there are other women in your organization or perhaps other organizations, reach out, share your thoughts, share your concerns, and there will be advice out there to help you with any challenges you might face.
Very good, very good. So I got another good question. Okay, so you must have been in my head here, because one of my follow-up questions for our last speaker was, how do we take this this philosophy of mentorship and actually turn it into real world stuff? And that's exactly the topic you picked. That's perfect. Let me see, we've got a couple more questions here. Do you have any advice on how people can approach someone about being a mentor for them?
Okay, yes, great question. I think, you know, being asked to be a mentor to someone, oftentimes I think you'll find that people are very happy to be asked to do that. It always helps, perhaps, if there's someone that you know in common that can make that introduction, because like everything, you know, to have somebody that's a total stranger may be a little bit, you might be a little uncertain about moving ahead. But if you can think about who else might know a person you want to be a mentor, ask for help for an introduction, and then having coffee, getting conversations underway. And actually, in this time of COVID, it's so easy to just jump on Zoom and have a one-on-one conversation almost at any time. And I think by and large that folks that you may have um, uh, watched and gotten to know through other venues that you think would be helpful to you in your career and a great mentor to you, don't hesitate to ask.
Very good. I'm going to ask you to pick a number. We're going to give away a copy of the book Cheryl recommended. And that, let me see here. What was the name of the book again here, Cheryl?
Oh, The Hidden Life of Trees.
That's right. We're going to
Yeah.
get a copy of that away. Can you pick a number between 1 and 45 for us?
I will pick 22.
22. Okay. We have everybody's information. We can, we'll put the winner on in the text box on the side there. Does anybody have any other questions for Cheryl before we let her go? Feel free to unmute and ask a question if you'd like. Maybe a Stacy Denke or somebody might want to step up, ask a question. Anybody like that?
Stacy, where do you work?
I work for Black Hills Energy.
Great to have you on today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yes, Josh and I are together on the YPG steering committee, and so he invited me to attend. So,
well, I'm glad you did. And Josh mentioned the Military Affairs Committee, and you know, just kind of a spoiler alert a little bit is that we in the Military Affairs Committee have been working with other military organizations in our community and are working to come together in a coalition to speak with one voice about our support for the military, both National Guard and Air Force that is coming up. And I know YPG will be an important part of those discussions, and look for your help in getting involved there as well.
Absolutely, we would love to.
Yeah. As you all know, the B-21 will be coming to Rapid City. Environmental impact statement hearings have just concluded, and a lot of new faces coming to town. And so looking for ways in which to make sure all of those new residents will be welcome in our community. It'll be a great, important challenge for all of us. So
Cheryl, I do have a question. Who are individuals, or what type of individuals did you look for your personal mentors, and how did they influence your life?
Well, I thank you for that question. And I will tell you, in getting started so many years ago, that there was not a lot of talk about finding mentors and that sort of thing. But I was fortunate enough, as I worked in that very first position at the cement plant, to get to work with a number of people. And there were different consultants that would work with the cement plant. And this might seem like a minor thing, but I remember there was a fellow, Harlan Gelhaus. He's the G in FMG today here in town. And Harlan said, as you write your technical papers, always remember to use active verbs. It makes for a much stronger technical report. And there were probably, 25 to 30 of those kinds of people all around me. And so maybe not one mentor, but many, on just picking up those everyday leadership skills and things like that, which was a great need. So I would say too that we had the ability to go to some leadership training. And again, this is something Karen mentioned, how important it is for young people to have the ability to learn how to be a leader. It's not an innate trait necessarily at all. It's a matter of learning kind of the how-tos and even how to make an action plan and how to involve a number of people in making decisions about how to impact a community and things like that. And so making sure that our leadership programs in Rapid City really meet the needs of emerging and young leaders in our community is really important. So thank you for being on YPG as well.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
So.
Okay, if there's no more questions, I think we're going to wrap up here. I just wanted to remind everybody that we take the month of December off to give everyone a chance to enjoy their families in the season. So our next luncheon will be on January 20th. Please like us on Facebook so you can see the inspirational articles and quotes that we share about leadership. We will also have announcements about upcoming speakers. I definitely would be remiss if I did not mention and recognize the amazing group of women that I have the privilege to work with on this board. Shannon has been steering the webinar today. Thank you, Shannon. Shannon Truax, Shelley McCutcheon, Christina McCullum, Chandra Klein, Sheena Cassette, Dr. Anna Quinn, Don Connor, and Laura Klaprick. So thank you all so very much and stay safe, and we'll see you in January.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Cheryl.